Today I'm going to show you the easiest way to grow and harvest lettuce. This always works, and with a very small growing space, we are able to harvest lettuce and have salads twice a day and still have enough left over to give to our friends and neighbors. Hi, I'm Valerie and welcome back to Now Gardening. As most of you already know, lettuce is a great way to add vitamins and minerals to your daily diet. That said, some gardeners really struggle to grow it. Now, whether your indoor seedlings simply got too leggy or maybe died off, or whether slugs and other insects have taken out your outdoor crop, today I'm going to show you how to grow your best lettuce crop ever. Lettuce is easy to start indoors, but not always easy to keep alive. And in my experience, lettuce seedlings are among the most fragile seedlings to start indoors. But fortunately, lettuce is a cool weather crop, and although the seeds will take longer to germinate if the soil temperature is less than 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit, they are incredibly hardy when they are direct sown outdoors. Now, I'll come back to how temperatures can affect lettuce later on, but first let's move on to how to sow your lettuce seedling, and this one might be a new one for you. When most people think of sowing lettuce seeds, they think of individual seeds, but not me. I think of broadcasting. But I'm not talking about a radio or television show here. I'm talking about a way of sowing seeds in which you scatter the seeds lightly over the soil. Now here, let me show you. Pretend you were just shaking a salt shaker over your favorite dish. You just sprinkle everything lightly, and then after you scatter the soil over the top of the seeds, you simply water them. For the quickest germination, you should really keep the seed moist until they germinate. However, let's say you're going out of town. Well, it's not a big deal. The seeds will be fine, and they'll germinate when they do get exposed to that moisture. In many cases, it just takes a few rainy days, and the seeds will germinate on their own. So now your lettuce seeds have germinated, and they look like this. Well, this is a time that they are easy prey for insects or for a hungry rabbit that decides to stop by. And most of these threats come at night. So this is where I recommend that you put a cover over your crops at night. And this does not have to be some sophisticated system. I simply put a tomato stake in, put a cover over the top of it, and an elastic band around my raised bed to keep it in place against the wind. And I'll come back to this in a few minutes, but first, let's move on to harvest time. If this video has been helpful, please click the like button down below. Thank you. I start with whatever the tallest area is the first time I'm harvesting, and I just slowly work around it day by day. And what's really cool about this is that as I'm working around the bed, the lettuce is regrowing, and by the time I make it all the way around, it's actually ready to start harvesting again. See, this lettuce here is a little bit shorter than the lettuce behind it. This is the lettuce that I harvested 2 weeks ago. As you can see here, I mean, these leaves are really ready to harvest again. On the other hand, these heads of lettuce were direct sown as individual seeds at the same time that I started the lettuce over there. And as you can see by comparison, well, there's actually just no comparison. I'll probably still have another couple of weeks before I can really harvest this as a lettuce head. And if you're wondering about the ones that I sowed indoors and moved outside, here's a couple of those. These I could harvest right now, but you see there's still a lot of fresh leaves growing in there, so these will also wait another week or two before I harvest it. But why does time matter so much? Remember earlier in the video when I mentioned temperatures in lettuce? Well, this brings me back to that. As I mentioned before, lettuce is a cool weather plant, so it will start to shoot up or bolt when the weather gets too hot or the days get too long. And this is more or less unavoidable at some point, but we want to delay that as long as possible. Here, we usually get until late May before the lettuce starts to turn bitter, and then it starts to bolt or go to seed. But even when it bolts, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And I'll come back to that in just a moment, but first, let me go back to covering up your crops. And here, I just want to say that the method that I spoke about earlier of covering your crops when they're still young and tender seedlings, but it's also a great way to protect your mature lettuce when it's ready to harvest from snails and slugs and other insects. Now, of course, you can also use formal row covers, but I really recommend that you cover your crops only at night once the temperatures warm up. And that's because these covers will help heat up the soil, which can be great early on when our temperatures are still cool, but it can shorten the growing period and actually trigger bolting if you leave those covers on hot sunny days. But as I mentioned, bolting isn't a terrible thing, even though we try to avoid it as long as possible so we can keep enjoying our daily salads. Bolting is just simply Mother Nature's way of producing seeds, and those seeds ensure our future crops. For me, I like to leave a couple of those bolting beauties with all of their flowers on it for our pollinators, and eventually those lettuce plants will dry out and I can collect the seeds. All of this lettuce here, this light green lettuce from that part of the bed this way. All of this came from my leaf lettuce seeds last year, and this was only one plant, and it's really super simple to do. And if you haven't harvested lettuce seeds before, I'll put a link to a video right over here for you.